The moment Andrew Keller stepped out of the factory doors that gray November morning, something heavy tugged inside his chest, an instinct, a whisper, a father's intuition that something wasn't right. He had felt it all week, a strange quiet in his daughter Chloe's usual brightness, like her spirit had dimmed and she was trying her best to hide the flicker. He didn't know why, but as the cold wind brushed against his face, he knew he had to go to her school during lunch. He didn't care that his supervisor would scold him or that he could be risking his job. All he cared about was the nagging ache that told him his daughter needed him more than anything else that day. And what he would soon discover in that crowded cafeteria, what he would see with his own eyes, would leave him frozen, breathless, and forever changed. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in the power of love to change someone's world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep telling meaningful stories like this. Andrew drove the 20 minutes to West Cedar Elementary with trembling hands on the steering wheel. He tried to silence the thoughts rushing through his mind, but they only grew louder with each passing moment. Life had been a storm ever since his wife passed away 3 years earlier. He had stumbled through grief, through single parenthood, through the crushing pressure of bills and responsibilities that never let up. He worked extra shifts, slept less, and prayed more, trying to be both mother and father, protector and provider. But lately, the weight had doubled. The factory announced layoffs. His car had broken down twice. And Chloe, sweet, gentle 9-year-old Chloe, had been waking up with shadows under her eyes and a sad, hollow smile she insisted was nothing. But a father knows. A father feels. When he arrived at the school, he stopped in the parking lot for a moment, gripping the steering wheel as if anchoring himself to courage. He stepped out into the crisp air, his work boots heavy as he crossed the sidewalk. The school buzzed with the lunchtime rush, children laughing, teachers corralling, cafeteria workers preparing meals. Everything blended together in a blur, but Andrew moved through it, guided by a single purpose. He signed in at the office, received a visitor badge, and made his way toward the cafeteria. The moment he stepped inside, the noise washed over him in a tidal wave, voices echoing against linoleum, trays clattering, chairs scraping. His eyes scanned the room, searching for the familiar auburn curls of his daughter. He found her tucked away at the far end of a long table, sitting alone. Yet what struck him wasn't the loneliness, it was the sight of a boy standing over her, holding her lunchbox open and laughing as he dumped its contents onto the floor. The other children watched, some giggled, others looked away, but not one said a word. Chloe sat frozen, staring at the spilled apple slices and crumbs scattered around her shoes, her hands clenched tightly in her lap, her face pale and trembling. Andrew felt something inside him crack. A deep, heart-wrenching pain surged through him as he watched the boy mock her, calling her names he couldn't even bear to hear. His daughter, who had already endured so much loss, who had fought so hard to stay brave, was being torn down in a place that should have protected her. He felt anger, sorrow, guilt, all blending into a storm that nearly stole his breath. Without thinking, he stepped forward, crossing the cafeteria quickly, his boots echoing through the room like thunder. The children fell silent at the sight of a tall man in a worn work jacket and a face etched with fierce, protective love. He knelt beside Chloe first, gently placing his hand on her shoulder. She looked up at him with wide, tear-filled eyes, her lashes wet and her lower lip trembling. He wanted to hold her, to shield her, to take away every hurt she had ever felt. But instead, he offered her a soft, steady expression, one that told her she was safe now. Then he stood and faced the boy who had been tormenting her. Though he didn't speak loudly, his presence carried more weight than any raised voice ever could. The boy's smug expression faded, replaced with uncertainty and then guilt. A teacher hurried over, concerned, and soon the situation began to unravel. The boy admitted he had been picking on Chloe for weeks. She had kept it all to herself, not wanting to add more stress to her father's already heavy burdens. Andrew felt his heart sink as he realized she had been trying to protect him, even while she suffered alone. The school staff intervened, pulling the boy aside for disciplinary action, offering apologies and explanations. But Andrew barely heard them. His focus was solely on his daughter, who stood shakily beside him, clutching his sleeve like a lifeline. He didn't take her home right away. Instead, he asked the principal if he could take the rest of her lunch period to sit with her outside. They stepped into the courtyard where the sky hung low and silver. He sat on a bench, pulled her into his arms, and let her finally cry. And in that moment, he understood why he had felt that strange, urgent pull earlier. Sometimes, a parent's intuition is God's whisper, gentle, subtle, yet impossible to ignore. As Chloe cried, the story spilled out bit by bit. The boy had mocked her old lunchbox, teased her about wearing the same shoes for too long, even pushed her books off her desk on a few occasions. She had tried to make friends but felt invisible most days. She missed her mom. She missed the warmth their home used to hold. And worst of all, she felt like she was a burden. Hearing those words shattered Andrew's heart. He held her tighter, telling her she was his entire world, that she was never a burden, and that everything he did, every shift, every overtime hour, every sacrifice, was for her. He wished he could give her more, wished he could shield her from every cruelty, but he knew he couldn't. What he could do was be present, be aware, and be her safe place. The rest of the afternoon changed something within him. He took the rest of the day off, brought Chloe to his favorite diner, a small, cozy place with red leather booths, and treated her to a slice of warm cherry pie and hot chocolate with extra whipped cream. She smiled through her sniffles, the dimness in her gaze slowly replaced by warmth. They talked about her dreams, about school projects, about little things she had been too afraid to share before. And as she talked, Andrew realized that their small home, their modest life, still held infinite love. He didn't need more money or more things to give her the happiness she deserved. He just needed to stay connected, to listen, to notice, to show up even on the hardest days. But what he didn't expect was what came later that evening. After dinner, there was a knock at the door. Standing on the porch was the boy's mother, a weary-looking woman who held her son's hand as if afraid he might run. She apologized tearfully, explaining that her son had been struggling with issues of his own, anger, confusion, resentment after his father left. She had no idea he had taken it out on another child. She asked if they could talk. And so they did. It wasn't easy. But it was honest. And for the first time in a long time, Andrew felt a sense of community, a reminder that broken people still needed grace, still needed compassion, still needed understanding. He didn't excuse the behavior, but he forgave it. And forgiveness, he realized, was not a sign of weakness, it was a declaration of healing. Over the next few weeks, things shifted. The school took stronger action to prevent bullying. Chloe grew more confident, no longer walking through the hallways with her head down. Surprisingly, the boy who had once tormented her offered her small gestures, a pencil when hers broke, a spot at the table, even a quiet apology. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. And sometimes progress was enough to rebuild hope. Andrew, too, changed. He began adjusting his work schedule so he could be more present. He cooked dinners instead of microwaving them. He helped her with school assignments. He let himself feel joy again, even on heavy days. A father's love, he learned, was not measured by perfection but by consistency, vulnerability, and unwavering devotion. And in those quiet evenings, as Chloe curled up beside him on the couch, resting her head on his shoulder, Andrew felt something he hadn't felt in years, a deep, soul-filling peace. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like the video, comment your thoughts, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Your support truly means the world. Before we end, please comment below, every child deserves kindness. And remember, sometimes the smallest act of love can change someone's entire world.